it was a proclamation.
It's at the beginning.
Okay, 146, Pride Day. I just wanted to make note that on social media, I've noticed over the past couple of days, there's a lot of positive feedback about the support that both of the schools, I think it's Mount Pearl, O'Donnell, the senior high, intermediate, and the junior high. Sorry,
yep.
The two senior high schools and their feeder junior high schools. And there's been a lot of positive feedback on social media with the support that they are receiving, of course, from the city of Mount Pearl on this particular initiative. I think in some ways it was probably long overdue for the schools to take such a proactive approach. Maybe the hullabaloo at the Olympics probably encouraged them, who knows. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, I think it's really an outstanding initiative that they're taking, because we've all seen back in our day, you'd always see young people who were probably ostracized for different reasons, and certainly their sexuality being one of them. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important that we break down those barriers as much as we can to make sure that it's equality for all.
All right, I agree. I had a feeling you'd want to speak to that today, Councillor Tessier.
Yes.
We had a great turnout at our last meeting. We had many proclamations, but we had a nice turnout from the 4 schools with some teachers and students here. Today was Pride Day, and as you said, my understanding is we had the flag here at City Hall, but with some difficulties with our flagpole. But we had the same sort of deal at our school, that with the weather and the mechanisms and all this sort of stuff. But we still displayed it in our main corridor there, and it was quite visible and quite large. And again, to Councillor Tessier's point, it's becoming more accepted. It's no big deal anymore, and we've made great strides. So I was very excited that we proceeded with that and acknowledged that and made that proclamation. So thank you for sharing that. Anything else from the minutes or action reports? No? All right, we do have one proclamation today, speaking of proclamations, and this too has a similar color. I like the fact that whoever wrote this little note used the color code, so the purple matched the letterhead here. This is another Purple Day, and it's tomorrow. It's Purple Day for Epilepsy, March 26th. So we don't have anyone in chambers today to speak to this, so I'll just read the proclamation into the record, and we'll ask for any sort of comments or comments or discussions afterwards. Whereas Purple Day is a global effort dedicated to promoting epilepsy awareness in countries around the world, and whereas Purple Day was founded by 9-year-old Cassidy Megan of Nova Scotia, who wanted to let people know that if you have epilepsy, you are not alone, and whereas epilepsy is one of the most common neurological conditions, estimated to affect over 10,000 people in Newfoundland and Labrador, and over 300,000 people in Canada, and 50 million people worldwide. And whereas 1 in 10 persons will have at least one seizure during his or her lifetime, and whereas the public is often unable to recognize common seizure types and how to respond with appropriate first aid, and whereas Purple Day will be celebrated on March 26th annually to increase understanding, reduce stigma, and improve the quality of life for people with epilepsy throughout the country and globally. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Jim Locke, Deputy Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim March 26th as Purple Day in an effort to raise the awareness and understanding of epilepsy and to support all those who live with seizures each day. And I'll sign this, and we'll make sure that that gets to Council. Would anyone like to speak to that? Councillor Stoyles, did you want to?
No, I'm fine.
Let me get this signed here. Okay, so that's our proclamation for today. We have no correspondence, so that brings us on now to our committee reports. And the first up is Community Services, and this will be brought in by Councillor Stoyles, and Councillor Aker is the second on this report today.
So it's going to be a record fast day today.
Record fast day, okay.
The first item we have is the Citizen of the Year, which is going to take place on April the 5th. And of course I want to say a special thank you to the Kinsman Club of Mount Pearl. They've been hosting this ever since it started, and want to say what a great job the Kinsman does. And the nominations closed, and we have 4 nominees: Patrick O'Keefe, Claudette Coombs, Cheryl Ash, and Brian Hunt. And tickets are available at $15 each, and looking forward to a great evening. And of course, our staff plays a big part in this as well, and it's going to be at the Reed Centre on Saturday, April the 5th, so looking forward to that.
Always a nice event, isn't it?
Always
Yep.
a nice event, and of course we've been doing it in conjunction with Volunteer Week. Volunteer Week starts the next day on Sunday, April the 6th, and of course we have a lot of activities and everything on the go for Volunteer Week, and Krista Tucker and community service staff have been heavily involved in that, and just wanted to mention that as well.
Okay.
And the Sports Alliance, in conjunction with the city, is doing a volunteer thank you event, and that's taking place on Saturday, April the 12th, from 10:30 to 1, and that's again at the Reed Centre. And looking forward to people to come out. For refreshments and snacks will be served, and it's hopefully will be a great event. And of course, we certainly want to thank all our volunteers within the community, especially our youth that play such a big part in it, because they're going to be our future, of course. And Easter camp is on April 21st and 25th, and just wanted to, it's from kindergarten to grade 6, and a great lot of activities from bowling to swimming and games, and looking forward to young people taking part in that. I know we do a summer program every year, and we have a lot of children take part. I think we have close to 250 young people taking part in our summer program. So I'm not sure, Jason, how many people would take part in our Easter program. Do you have
64 spots for Easter.
64 spots? So it's a great opportunity for people working, because it's a full-day program, and looking forward to that as well.
That's great.
And I think that's it.
That's
for
it
me.
for that. Thank
It
you. I
is.
think it's great that the city is promoting this active living. All the
It is.
all the stats coming out now on sugar consumption, and a survey I read there a while back that the majority of high school students spend 90% of their time indoors. You know, so the more we can do as a city to promote this and get people moving, you know. Motion is lotion. Keeps you healthy and strong and happy and contented. So that's great. Did council want to speak to any of these 4 items that Councillor Stoll has brought in? No? All right. Let's move on to our next committee report then. We have Corporate Services and Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Report. Yep.
3 items for consideration inside the kit, and we also have a 4th one outside that you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. The first items are professional development training requests. These have been approved by our committee. It's for the Chief Administrative Officer to travel to the annual CAMA conference, which is taking place in Niagara Falls, May 26th to 28th, and as well for Mayor Sims and Deputy Mayor Locke to go to the FCM conference from May 30th to June 2nd, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Questions, comments? No? Call the question. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Next item, number 2 here, is a tax request for tax consideration by the Knights of Columbus at 7 Greenwood Crescent. They are not just a non-profit organization, but truly are a charitable organization, both in legality and the way they operate.
In spirit, yeah.
We're asking for tax consideration for 100% of the business tax, as well as, given that they're a charitable organization, 60% of the property tax, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. All those in favour? Contrary-minded?
Outside
Motion's
the kit,
carried.
sorry, Your Worship, thanks.
No worries.
Outside the kit, we have an updated listing of invoices for approval. The amended amount is $2,088,658.65, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Comments? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Just wanted to note that the theme in this week's or this week meeting's payment register is you see significant amounts there for coal as our snow clearing efforts are continuing. Salt. Did I say coal?
I was going to say,
I'm
that's not
sorry.
environmentally
That
friendly.
would
We're
be
going back to
Avalon
burning
coal,
coal.
salt, and oil.
Yeah.
We're using salt on the streets, and it hasn't been working that well, has it? Sorry, guys, I apologize.
Oh, no worries. No worries at all.
Worse things have happened, right?
Yeah.
Right. And Metrobus, you see some money being paid out there for the service in February, $98,000. That's the regional services component. And the biggie in the group is $1,382,000 for progress payment number 22 in the multiplex, and I'm sure there will be an update coming later on in the meeting.
Indeed.
The
I had
final
a question today, Councillor Aker.
Yeah, go ahead.
From one of my students, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And they asked, how much salt does the city use on an annual basis? And I said, I should know that, but I forgot the total amount. So is there something that someone can pull out of their hat and give me a rough estimate that I can bring back?
I got a rabbit.
Mr. Antle? rough numbers.
Rough number is usually around 6,000 tons.
5,000 or 6,000 tons. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of salt. All right. Thank you for that.
Good stuff. Yeah, well, money well spent for the safety of our of the traveling public within the city.
Absolutely.
The final thing is a tender call for data, voice cabling, and associated equipment for our multiplex. We received 2 bids, and the lowest bid to Century 2K, lowest bid and qualified bidder, Century 2K, in the amount of $41,987.65, and I move we approve the tender call and place this contract in action.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. All those in favour? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to Infrastructure and Public Works Committee. Councillor Ledwell is going to bring in this report, and Councillor Aker will be second on this report as well.
Indeed, thank you, Your Worship. First item on our agenda this evening for Infrastructure and Public Works, as soon as I get back here on my kit here, is our winter maintenance update. And of course, it's business as usual with snow clearing in the city of Mount Pearl. Winter is back, it seems, with a vengeance this week. So the operations of our snow clearing equipment and personnel continue. Right now, our crews are out pushing back and cleaning up our streets in preparation for the storm that's about to occur on Wednesday, or I think we're forecasting for 10 centimeters of snow and 10 centimeters of rain, so certainly it looks like it's going to be a mess, so we're preparing well for that. We do have our small sidewalk blowers out, clearing up our sidewalks. We have our groomer out on the trails, so people who utilize our trail system will be happy to know that we're continuing to groom our trails as winter hopefully rounds out. And we do have our UTM crews currently at work that are they're out clearing out the hydrants and trying to make sure that our hydrants are clear, and in case we ever need them. Of course, we never do want to need them, but it's very important that we have them clear. We do have some equipment undergoing regular maintenance, of course, and as I say, the access to the trails are being opened at all road crossings and entry points. Our groomer is out, and we do have our crews out preparing for the storm on Wednesday. So business as usual. Hopefully this is going to be the end of the winter season for us shortly, but of course we do never know in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.
It hasn't been a normal winter, has it?
It has not. It has not, Your Worship, that's for sure.
Speaking of winter maintenance, I know Director Antle sent around a picture today, which was nice to see, one of our residents clearing out, taking the initiative to clear out their fire hydrant. So I know we've been promoting that at public meetings and various venues, so it's nice to see that people are taking that initiative. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Thank you, Councillor
So
Ledwell.
that's our winter maintenance update.
Yep.
Our second item is, as Councillor Aker referenced a minute ago, it's an update on our multiplex. Just to be very brief, at this point, the project is 93% financially complete. So we're certainly still on target for our opening, our grand completion in the summer of 2014. And the project continues to look great. Certainly looks more and more like a completed building every day, and certainly we're very excited to be able to call this project very close to completion.
Absolutely.
Third item on the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee report is a tender. It's for electrical maintenance. The Infrastructure Public Works Committee was advised that the tender for this electrical maintenance was closed on March 7th, 2014. There were 3 bids received. It is the recommendation of the committee that the contract be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder, which was Emberley Electric Limited, for the bid amount of $59,042.50. This is HST included, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell and seconded by Councillor Aker. Comments? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
Next item we have is a tender for the supply and delivery of playground equipment. You'll see there in your kit that the areas currently scheduled for playground equipment replacement for 2014 include Forsey Place, Champlain Crescent, Graham Place, Brett Place, and Farrell Drive. The committee was advised that this particular tender did close on March 7th of 2014, and once again we did have 3 bids received. You'll see some of the equipment in your kits and also up on our screens here. And it is the recommendation of the committee that the contract be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder, which would be Henderson Recreation Equipment, that for the bid amount of $69,495, HST included, and I so move.
Far cry from the stuff we used to climb on, and it's pretty nice stuff, isn't it? We had a few monkey bars and the fire person's pole. These look great. All right, call the question. Moved by Councillor Ledwell and seconded by Councillor Aker. Comments? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Okay, and the final item on the Infrastructure Public Works report is also a tender, this one being for street markings. The committee has been advised that the tender for street markings closed as well on March 7th of 2014. We have had 2 bids received. It is the recommendation of the committee that the contract be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder, that being Clearaway Contracting, for the amount of $507,929.35. This is HST included. Of course, this contract is to do our spring line painting markings. We're going to be doing, included in this is the city facility parking lots. We're looking at markings in the fall, and as well as some further thermoplastic application for the pilot project that we've had ongoing the past year or two. So that's all included under that amount, and I'd like to move the recommendation of the committee.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Aker. So as you said, Councillor Ledwell, this is for all the line painting, you know, initial application, touch-ups in the fall, thermoplast.
And the parking lots.
And the parking lots.
That's right.
Okay. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
And that's it for you, Councillor Ledwell. Thank you. That brings us up to Planning and Development Committee report. And this will be brought in by Councillor Ledwell and seconded by Councillor.
So it's not actually it for me, Your Worship.
No. Well, we don't mind listening to you. You do a good job, so keep trucking there, brother.
We'll keep on going.
There you go.
First item for the Planning and Development Committee is, of course, some information on the proposed Economic Development Accord. Of course, as we know, the Council knows, this is a project from municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador, and primarily, of course, it's the UMC members that are putting this together. Is, of course, the group representative of the 20 largest municipalities in the province. And, of course, as we know, our own mayor is the chairperson of this particular organization, so he's heavily involved in this particular project. At the February 28th meeting in Deer Lake, the draft of this proposed Economic Development Accord was presented to the members of the UMC group, as well as economic development officers from the 20 largest municipalities in the region. The group was afforded an opportunity to provide commentary on the proposed draft of the agreement, which of course is in your kits for you to have a look at. There was a schedule of events and milestones that were presented to the UMC group, and in order to move forward, Council has been afforded now the opportunity to provide some feedback and to have a look at the draft accord, and of course, as I say, to provide feedback to MNL. The department has reviewed this particular piece of draft, I guess, accord, and it is prepared to recommend that Council resolve that the Mayor be authorized to sign the MNL Economic Development Accord as presented at the MNL Symposium in Gander, coming up towards the end of April, early May. The committee does support the recommendation of the department, and I'd like to move that we resolve to make that happen.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Call the question. Okay, yeah. Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Okay, the second item that we have is a proposal from J&P Contracting Incorporated. It's a proposed development of a commercial building at 1084 to 1090 Topsail Road. On this particular lot, there was a previously made application that involved consolidating 2 residential lots to create a commercial lot, demolishing the existing 2 buildings, and developing a 3-story commercial building that would have the floor area of 1,863.45 square meters. The developer has now proceeded with a revised application where the commercial building is going to be a bit larger, and it's going to have a floor area of 2,341.85 square meters. You see a copy of the site plan attached in your kit. Now, the building footprint has been reconfigured to be located closer to the eastern property boundary. The revised proposal also includes an increase in the number of parking spaces to coincide with the increase in the floor area of the building. Now, the revised proposal does meet the development standards of the City of Mount Pearl, and certainly also meets the parking requirements as well. So at this point, it is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee that the development plan for the property at 1084 to 1090 Topsail Road be approved and a revised development permit be issued subject to the development complying with the city's regulations and subject to the conditions of the development permit DP 13-079, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any comments? No? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Our third item, Your Worship, is a notice of motion, so I'll just read it into the record. In accordance with Section 39 of City of Mount Pearl Act 1988, take notice that, in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the text of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 that, if enacted, will, number 1, remove club and lodge uses from the list of permitted uses in the following use zones: city centre, commercial general special, and commercial neighbourhood. Number 2, add club and lodge uses to the list of discretionary uses in the following use zones: commercial mixed, city centre, commercial general special, commercial neighbourhood, commercial highway, commercial regional. 3, remove bar and lounge uses from the list of permitted uses and add bar and lounge uses to the list of discretionary uses in the commercial regional use zone. Number 4, sequentially renumber the subsequent. Wow, that's
Several
holy
similar
moly.
sounds in succession. Holy.
Say that 5 times fast.
There you go.
Sequentially renumber the subsequent subsections accordingly.
Good job. Close enough.
We made it.
Yeah, we made it.
The purpose of the the purpose of the amendment is to delete a number of commercial uses from the list of permitted uses and add them to the list of discretionary uses in several use zones. As the uses may create nuisances to surrounding properties, the uses are being moved to discretionary uses within those use zones so that they may be subject to the public notification process. That's a mouthful.
I didn't quite get all that. You want to go back and start?
No, I
reading
don't want to
again?
go back, Your Worship. Thank you very much for the opportunity, but I don't want to go back.
Good job. Good job there.
Amen. Our next item, Your
Excellent,
Worship, is the list of development permits, which thankfully is very short. We just have one development permit, which is, of course, the development at 50 Jersey Avenue that most of Council, I think, is familiar with. So I'd like to move the development permit list for the period March 10th to the 21st of 2014.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded. Motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Finally, we're just going to move the residential and commercial building permit totals for the period of March 10th to the 21st. On the residential side, our total for the period is $37,000, and I so move.
Moved. Seconded. All those in favour? Contrary-minded. Motion is carried.
And finally, Your Worship, the second amount, the commercial total for the same period, $68,800, and I so move.
Moved. Seconded. All those in favour? Contrary-minded. Motion is carried.
That concludes planning and land use.
Thank you, Councillor Ledwell. Are you up for regional services too? I'm just kidding.
No, sir, I am not.
Councillor Stolz is up for regional
Move along
services.
You're not giving my committee away already, eh?
No, I would never do that, Councillor Stolz.
Just want to
Never
make
do
sure.
that. Yeah.
We have a couple of items. The 2013 Drinking Water Quality Report, and this report was done by the Department of Environment and Conservation. And, of course, the report is listed there, and overall, the quality in Mount Pearl is excellent. But I wanted to highlight and touch on this is something that the department had done, and I don't think I ever remembered in my years being here on council ever seeing this come in. And I'm just want to ask Ms. Peach a question if it's something that they do every year. And I wanted to highlight that the city every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we do testing of our water. And last week we had our Avalon meetings at the Capitol Hotel here in St. John's, and the first item on the agenda for our regional meetings was water and water safety and how important it is to have your water tested. And there was a large number of towns in the region and in the province on the boil order over the past 6 months and over the past year. And once you go under a boil order, apparently it's very difficult to get the government and the testing to get back on. It takes sometimes up to 3 months to get back to get off of the boil water,
yep.
even though the water might be quite safe to drink and quite fine, but it takes a long time to do it. So I just wanted to ask Ms. Peach, is this something that we do every single year? And I'm glad to see that it's there, and it's a full extensive report, and you almost need to be a chemist to review it and look at it. I was trying to decipher it, and I even printed it out to try and highlight some of the things that I could even mention today, but it's just under all, it's just great to see that our water is certainly safe and is certainly good and safe drinking water. But I just had the question.
Director Antle, want to speak to that?
This is the report prepared by the Department of Environment through the Water Resources Division. They do it on public water supplies throughout the province, Councillor Stoyles. It's done normally, it's in my understanding, on an annual basis. It can be done more frequently if the community so requests it. And in this case, it's of Bay Bulls water. This treatment plant at Bay Bulls is where it's measured from.
Okay. No, I was just, interested because it's the first time I've seen it come to our public council meeting, and I'm glad to see that it is let the public know that the water is safe, and of course to assure them again that we do testing 7 days a week, like I said, 365 days a year, every year for safety of our water.
Yeah, Councillor Stoyles, you mentioned about the Avalon meetings at the Capitol Hotel. I too attended that, and through some of the roundtable discussions we had, it was interesting because I was paired up with mostly councillors from rural communities, and boy, it was a real eye-opening experience when you hear that their water is brown, or that they don't drink it, they won't bathe in it, and all this sort of stuff. And as you said, I mean, we're drinking pristine water here, and I was just having this conversation. We have I come down every recess at school and I get a drink of water. We got one of those water coolers, hooked up to our fountains, and I always smack my lips and say, you can't beat Mount Pearl water, But when we went camping years ago, I used to have to take Mount Pearl water with us to Atlantic Canada in my trailer because my wife will only drink Mount Pearl water. So it's nice to know that we take it for granted, but there's a lot of communities in this province that don't have the quality water that we have. So kudos to our staff who check this on a daily basis, and it's nice to see this report. I could pronounce some of the words here, like source water and tap water.
That's
but
about it.
The trihalomethanes and the haloacetic acids, well, I wasn't too familiar with those, but the source water and the tap water, I was familiar with that. So, yeah. Yeah. But thank you for bringing that in, Councillor Stoyles, because it is a great report, and it's good to know. It's reassuring to the people of Mount Pearl that we do have a reliable, nice, clean water source. So thank you for that. Next one.
Thank you. Next item is Northeast Avalon Joint Council. Of course, they met on March 19th in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, and the next meeting is going to be April the 16th, and they have Minister Kent coming in to speak to that, and it's going to be in the town of CBS, and wanted to invite all other councillors and staff, anybody who's interested in coming up. It's at the new Interpretation Centre in CBS, and it's 7:30 on the 16th of April. And of course, the Northeast Avalon Joint Council is made up of 21 towns on the Avalon, and it's great for everybody to get together and discuss any issues the whole the Avalon is having. And I certainly enjoy attending those meetings. And last, I have another item outside the book. Another item we have is the Eastern Waste Management Board has appointed Councillor Aker to sit on that board, and I think they meet tomorrow night. No, next Wednesday night. And I think Councillor Aker wants
Councillor Aker, you want to speak to that?
Could I make a comment?
Yep, absolutely, please.
Thank you, Councillor Stoyles, and Your Worship. Yeah, I accepted the appointment. I've been on the board now for 2 years. The board was formed basically coming out of the province's initial implementation of its what's it called, the province's solid waste strategy, basically, right? And it's not a municipal board, but it's made up of municipal representation. There's about 20 odd members, representatives from all municipalities here in the Avalon Peninsula. It stretches its scope of its service runs from, say, St. John's all the way west towards Clairville.
Okay.
And the main goal of the board basically is to collect garbage, basically, that's outside of the garbage collection routes of most major municipalities which can afford to do so, and also to transport that garbage in. And this comes from the initial goals, which were the province wanted to shut down all of the waste sites, all these little garbage dumps, these teepees that were burning all the garbage and all the pollution that emitted into the environment. So we work with St. John's, who manages the dump site. Basically, it's made up of, like I said, municipal representation, but we do, as such, report. We are an instrument of the province.
Okay.
My role on the board is to represent the interests of the city of Mount Pearl, at the same time trying to work within the province's waste reduction strategy. The reason, Your Worship, I bring this up is that, in sometimes you hear negative comments about Mount Pearl or the suburbs not participating regionally, and you hear often the cries for amalgamation, for example. But, you know, this is an example where we can work with all of the members of our region, whether it's the urban centers of Mount Pearl, St. John's, Paradise, and CBS, but also in this case, we're working with everybody, all the municipalities, all the local service districts here on the Avalon Peninsula. Councillor Stoyles chairs our Regional Services Committee. We both sit on many committees as it relates to regional wastewater, regional water, the Regional Fire Committee. We only met yesterday over in St. John's. Mm-hmm. Mount Pearl does do its share, and basically doing things that make sense on a regional basis works for Mount Pearl and allows us at the same time to maintain our identity. Right. So we are doing our share, and part of the some of the new initiatives that we're going to be working on in the next 4 years. Ed Grant, by the way, from Mount Pearl, he is the chair of the board. Yes. He's not a municipal representative. He is actually appointed by the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Mm-hmm. But two things to note for the public and for fellow council members. In the next little while, we're going to be working with Municipal Affairs and the MMSB on a pilot project for centralized compost. Now, that doesn't mean Mount Pearl can't do its own centralized composting or even do backyard composting if it wants, but what it's going to basically do is implement a look-see at basically whether we can do it on a centralized basis. Right. And if it makes sense for Mount Pearl, I'm pretty sure we would join in if it makes sense. The problem going forward is that's going to greatly add to the cost of garbage collection, because you're going to have all your trucks going around picking up your regular garbage. You're still going to have Robin Hood Bay or some dump site for the regular garbage. Now you're going to have another processing facility and site as it relates to compost. So in the years to come, if composting does get off the ground, keeping in mind the original purpose of it is to divert things away from the main landfill. Right. If we can take compost material, compost it, and ultimately end up reusing it, whether we're selling it to retailers or reusing it in our gardens, at the end of the day, the Robin Hood Bay facility or whatever dump site we're using basically will have a longer life. And at the end of these dump sites, at the end of their lives, there's huge cost to close them down. Mm-hmm. So we can defer that great big cost going down the road. But on the other hand, in the shorter period of time, if we implement composting, the cost of garbage collection, including composting, is going to go up because now we're going to have multiple streams. And of course, we'll have to fit that into the way Public Works goes about it. So I'm only forecasting that basically there will be cost pressures coming down the road. Right. If we ultimately decide, either as a city or as a region, if we decide to go with centralized composting, especially if, for example, down the road, the Robin Hood Bay facility, for example, say it did not accept composting material going down the road. Right. Ultimately, we're going to be faced with the challenge of finding revenue to match with the cost. So that's one initiative. Mm-hmm. And the other thing we're working on too, Your Worship, is introducing waste collection to cottage country in the Cavan areas. Yes. And this is a fallout from basically, well, where does their garbage go? And another interesting fact that's happening in some of these cottage areas is that there's more and more people living up there permanently, and they would like to see garbage collection. So one of the challenges of Eastern Waste ultimately will be to come up with a practical method of picking up garbage that's compatible with, I guess, people's budgets. Right. Because they're paying for the garbage collection back in the municipality that they live in. They're also paying for garbage collection and potentially will be down the road. There's no denying it, though, that if we don't put some garbage collection into some of these cabin areas, at the end of the day, there's going to be more environmental damage done. It's just going to happen. We won't have teepees and dump sites. Unfortunately, we'll probably end up in a situation where some of this garbage is not coming to Robin Hood Bay, and it's actually scattered all over the place. Right. That's an even worse case scenario. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to thank Councillor Stoyles for referring to my appointment. I'm looking forward to it, and these are some of the things we'll be working on for the next 2 or 3 years. Thank you, Councillor Aker. I appreciate the commentary there, and I think Councillor Tessier wanted to speak to some of Councillor Aker's points. Yeah, just a couple of points. We're talking about composting and bringing in centralized composting and how it might actually force us to incur some extra cost. But at this point, I think it's $65 a ton. How much is it to dump waste? Yeah, it's about $65 down at Robin Hood Bay. But if we were to take composting out of our system, that would greatly reduce that weight. And as a result, there might be some cost recovery. Is that a fair statement to make? Mm-hmm. Do you have another correction? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I wish the costs down Robin Hood Bay and with the garbage system were all variable. So as we reduce the volumes, the weight going into Robin Hood Bay or some dump site, we wish we could see the costs go down. Unfortunately, a very large portion of the cost of operating a dump is a fixed cost.
Right.
All the equipment, the infrastructure, the salaries, you know what I mean, of all the staff. The thinking is going forward that even though the volumes will go down, if compost is removed from that regular stream, is the cost is still going to be there.
Yes.
All we do at Eastern Waste is we work backwards, basically. We estimate our volumes, which are currently about 200,000 tons a year. But if we take out 30%, which is the estimate for
Compostable material.
composting,
Yeah.
you're going to see an increase of 50% in the fee because you're still left holding the cost at the end of the
Of
day.
running the-
Hopefully, I answered your question.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you,
Okay.
Councillor
That's actually not bad. Also, the backyard composting. You touched on that. I think it's really important that we stress to people: if you do backyard compost, you have to do it properly. It's a real education to know how to do it properly, because otherwise you're going to draw all kinds of unnecessaries that you definitely don't want: pests, rodents, smells, and of course composting that's not being done the way that it needs to be done to make it usable, and it'll become a nuisance for your neighbors. So I think it's really important for us to stress that if you are to backyard compost, that it is done absolutely properly. And I'm sure that MMSB and certainly the regional committee will be very happy to provide the information to people should they wish to access it. And also I wanted to touch on the cost of garbage collection, waste management in some of the more cabin country areas. I think it's a fair assessment. I have a place around the bay. I know the deputy mayor has a place around the bay. I pay for garbage collection there as well. And I throw out very, very little garbage there. I'm only there one day a week maybe. But I think it's a fair assessment that if you can, have a second dwelling that you live in, the cost of garbage collection really probably isn't that onerous.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. I just want to make a couple of points there about the Councillor Aker mentioned about the cost, because we got to divert compost and all that sort of stuff. But my thinking is, sorry, Councillor Stoltz, my thinking is if we're taking a third of our garbage out and it's compostable, well, maybe you don't put your bins out as often for your waste, and we brought that up at last meetings, and I had a conversation actually with some of my neighbours, and because I had mentioned to my wife that if we only got one bag or two bags in your bin, well, don't wheel your bin out. Leave it in by your house. I mean, it's not doing any damage, and wait until so maybe with the compostables, maybe you only got to put your garbage out once every 2 weeks. So we're not really increasing the number of visits to the household. Maybe we pick different things up at different times, like they do in other jurisdictions. The other thing, speaking of backyard composting, because we do participate in that in my household, and I was just listening to CBC and the gentleman from the Botanical Gardens, and he said if you want to speed up your rate of composting, a little bit of lime on top of your compost will actually speed up the composting process. So I wasn't aware of that, but but by all means, to Councillor Tessier's point, you got to do it properly or you will attract the rodents and the unnecessaries. Sorry, Councillor Stoltz, we cut you off there.
That's quite all right.
Yep.
I'm going to give a rant because the mayor is not here. He's away on vacation.
Right.
And his remark every time we discuss and talk about backyard composting is on 40 and 50 foot lots they shouldn't be allowed because people are too close, and unless you know exactly what and how to do it. And we have an awful lot of people that compost and put too many other things in it, and it do create rats and that. And I'm not a big supporter of backyard composting because I've seen too much of it. I've had too many complaints over the past 20 years on composting because people take it on, they think they understand it, and they think they know, and they put all kinds of food in it that shouldn't belong. And unless they're willing to go out and read all the information and do it right, I certainly don't support backyard composting.
And maybe we should help with that with an advertising campaign.
And I have no problem in doing. I mean, it has to start right with our children, like we do the DEAR program. I was up at school last week with the DEAR program with the RCMP, and you got to start right from the beginning, right with our young
Absolutely.
children,
Yep.
and that's where it all starts, right from from the time the children start kindergarten, and until we get to the young people, we're not going to even put a crack in it.
Okay.
The last item.
Last one for you, yep.
The last
Outside
item
the kit?
I have outside the kit is Earth Hour, and it's March 29th from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And of course, we're asking staff and encourage all Canadians to take part in this and to turn off all your lights for that 1 hour and take part in Earth Day.
Okay. So 8:30 to 9:30 this Saturday
This coming Saturday.
is Earth Hour, yeah. Yes, sirree. And that
And
it
that's
for you,
it for
Councillor
me.
Stoss? Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the next one is transportation and public safety. Councillor Tessier.
My goodness, if my poor Leafs are playing on Saturday night, it might not be that hard to turn them off for an hour.
They play in the dark anyways, don't they?
Sin, really, is a sin. It's a
Aren't they used to playing in
sin.
the dark?
It's a sin. I'll tell you what is good. This is a piece of good news. The Mount Pearl Company 4507, the CLB, is celebrating their 50th anniversary, and they're having a parade on April 6th.
Nice.
So for the information of the public, the parade is going to start at 10 o'clock from Centennial Square, and it's going to go down through Bannister Street onto Smallwood Drive, ending at the Church of the Ascension, and then it's going to return to the Church of the Ascension at 12:30, then back to Centennial Square. They're expecting over 200 members in attendance.
Wow.
So if you're in Mount Pearl that day, by all means, go down, celebrate with them, or at least watch the parade. They do some fabulous work, and 50 years is certainly something to celebrate.
Indeed. Let's hope the weather cooperates.
Well, I'm thinking when they scheduled this, it probably wasn't with the intention of putting on their snow boots and their mitts, but who knows?
March in their snowshoes, eh? Thank you, Councillor Tessier. Well, that's it for committee reports. So that brings us on to new business, and we'll start with Councillor Stoyles.
And I'm going to touch on again the Avalon meeting that took place at the Capitol Hotel this past weekend, and a number of issues. Actually, the first question, more of a little teaser, they were using the new clickers that they had, and the first question that they had for the 100 people that was there, who's your favourite hockey team? And they named 5 hockey teams, and the one that came out on top with 70%, I might add,
Senior Blades?
was the Toronto Maple Leafs. So just thought I would mention it. No, it was just a little teaser starting off because they were using the little clickers for doing. So I thought it was quite nice.
Yeah.
But anyway, a number of things that happened at the Avalon meeting. Of course, waste management certainly came up in the roundtable discussion, and they talked about illegal dumping, and that takes place everywhere within the region, even here in Mount Pearl and St. John's, and I know CBS and Paradise had put on a big campaign last year on it, but it's happening all over the region, and they were looking at ideas and ways to try and stop it and what else they could pick up. And when we're picking up bulk garbage, that we would pick up whatever we can. It's better for us to pick it up than have it in somebody's in the walkways or somewhere, because if we don't pick it up and people can't get rid of it, 99% of the time they want to get rid of it somewhere, and they will just bring it or drop it off wherever they can. So it was more of an encouragement to encourage all the towns and to send a message back to Waste Management. And when you have your meeting next week, Councillor Aker, I hope you will take it back that they're encouraging all the towns when they pick up the bulk garbage to take everything, because they do ask for the wood to be bundled and things like that. But I know one of the things that we talked about, and it wasn't here, was at the Northeast Avalon Joint Council meeting, was concrete. And they said, well, most of the towns got backhoes and that, and we try not to take concrete because we don't want to injure our workers and that. But how do people get rid of it when they replace their fences and that? Anyway, they want the towns to go back and have a second look at when they're picking bulk garbage up, to pick up a bit of everything. And of course, overall, the meeting was about the fiscal framework and about other issues that's coming up. And of course, we have our symposium coming up on May 25th, the 22nd to 25th in Gander, and certainly hope that as many people can get out to it as possible. And the only other item I have is the Chamber of Commerce is having their AGM this coming Thursday, and I want to mention that if anybody would like to attend that this coming Thursday.
Okay.
And that's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor Stoyles. I just have one question. You were talking about the waste collection and the bulk garbage. Just a question out there now for Director Antle. Given the change that we're bringing in this year to our bulk garbage, where residents will have an opportunity to call and book and stuff like that, under that new system, would we, if they called up and said, I want to come in Tuesday or next Tuesday, I got some bulk items. If they said on the phone that I got some concrete products like old fence posts and stuff like that, would we take that under this new program?
It's our same program, Mayor Locke, in the sense that it was developed many years ago. The program is changing with appointments for the 3 summer months. Still the regular bulk collection spring and fall.
Okay.
The guidelines are still the same, maximum £50 if my memory serves me right.
Right.
And again, Councillor Stories is right that it has to do with protection of our workers for picking up that kind of heavy bulk material.
Okay, so if that item, they're still responsible.
If it's still within less than £50
Right.
and we can reasonably pick it up,
Perfect.
we can take it.
Yeah, because we do, like to Councillor Stoll's point, our collectors are very good at that. I mean, if they can accommodate, they will. They use discretion there, and they'll take whatever they can. But to your point, if it's too heavy and dangerous, we just can't do it. Thank you, Councillor Stoll. Thank you, Director Antle. Next up is Councillor Tessier.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to send condolences, and I hope that we can certainly acknowledge them as this loss as a city as well. Ben Duggan is a long-time Mount Pearl resident. Ben passed away on March 13th. He actually passed away while I was out of town, and I was delayed coming back, so I actually missed everything, and it was very sad for me to miss that because Ben's a friend of mine. So we want to send condolences to Geraldine and to Denise and Dion as well. Ben is a longtime resident of Mount Pearl, very active in his church at St. Peter's, and he'll be tremendously missed. He had a short battle with cancer, and my understanding is that it was very quick. He was in my house just past Christmas.
Okay.
But anyway, Ben did pass away on the 13th, and I want to express my condolences to Jerry and to Denise and Dion, and of course to everybody whose lives he touched. He had a very big heart, and he did everything with that big heart wide open. So he will be very much missed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Aker?
Yeah, just one item, but I do want to pass on the same sentiment to the Duggan family, right? Ben is a great loss. He was a great volunteer, and a very good family man, and typical of what you find in our fair city.
67, was it?
The only thing I wanted to say, Your Worship, was that Grace Hollett, who lives on Sunrise Avenue, she's involved with the Canadian Federation of University Women. And if you're an avid reader, on March 25th to 29th at the Arts and Culture Centre, they have their annual used book fair. And it's a big book fair.
Yeah.
So anybody has any books to donate, give me a shout. But more importantly, if you want to go out, you're an avid reader, you want to pick up a spare book or two, just check out the Arts and Culture Centre. I think it's 6 to 9 on Wednesday, and then 10 in the morning till 9 at night on Thursday and Friday. I think most of the proceeds or some of the profits go to the Munn University Food Bank. So there's something for you to do if you're an avid reader. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Councillor Aker. Councillor Ledwell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few items to touch on. I too, of course, want to pass on condolences to Ben Duggan's family and friends. Of course, he was heavily involved at St. Peter's Parish, which certainly hits home with me, having been a member of the parish council and heavily involved in the parish myself. So he will be missed at St. Peter's. There's no question about that. I just wanted to hit on very quickly 2 events that I was very proud and happy to attend over the course of this past weekend. On Friday evening, I dropped down to the Swim for Hope that the Mount Pearl Marylands were heavily involved in. Of course, the proceeds were going to the H.G. Bliss Murphy Cancer Foundation. The Marylands were involved in this particular event, as were a number of other swim clubs across the province. Lots of excitement certainly at the pool that evening, lots going on. As well, we once again this year had the cardboard boat building contest. Last year when my team miserably failed in the cardboard boat building contest and our boat sank right off the top, I said that I might bring the engineering department along with me for this year.
And did you?
I did not. Okay. And once again, the boat sank very quickly as we moved away from the deck. So, but we had great spirits, certainly. So we had a lot of fun, and I did tell the kids that next year I am indeed going to bring Director Antle and hopefully save some face because this is not going well. We're going to cheat. No, I'm kidding. Either way, it was a great event. Certainly, a lot of fun was had by all, and I just want to congratulate the Marylands and all the great work they do and all the money that they continue to raise for the Cancer Foundation. Certainly, great to see.
Good stuff.
Secondly, I wanted to make mention of our Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association, which, as Council knows, is going to be hosting the Bantam Irving AAA Challenge Cup from April 3rd to the 6th. And I guess in recognition and to raise some awareness of that particular event, Mount Pearl Minor Hockey hosted a ball hockey challenge this past Saturday afternoon over at the Irving parking lot across the street over here on Commonwealth Avenue. There were teams involved in the ball hockey challenge from the host team themselves, the host committee, Hockey Newfoundland and Labrador, and we had a team from the City of Mount Pearl as well. And I was going to say I'm proud to say I was part of that team, but I don't know how proud the team is that I was part of it, to be very honest. I do want to thank Director Silver and all of the staff members that came out and participated in the event with us. We had a great time.
Good stuff.
Certainly, teenagers run an awful lot faster these days, it seems. But I do want to thank the staff for having a great afternoon, for participating, and certainly guiding us to a great victory in our game that we had.
Nice.
I'm very happy to say that they didn't ask us to do it again. But we had a great time, and I do want to congratulate the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association on a great event on Saturday and wish them luck as they host the Bantam Irving AAA Challenge Cup on April 3rd to the 6th.
It should be a great event. I know they've been doing a lot of planning for that over the last year, so there'll be many people from Atlantic Canada coming to our fair city this weekend, so that's good news. All right, well, if that's it, you covered all the things that I was going to bring up as well, so I call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Tessier. We are adjourned. Thank you.